I had to laugh when I saw the announcement of my talk today that Suzanne generally sends out, being enough. I'm not sure what that means, but I thought it was a good space holder, and I loved the picture. I don't know how many of you clicked on that to see that, but there's a person sitting there looking out at a lake, and his mind is looking at boats and planes and cars and food, and then he's sitting next to a dog, and the dog is just thinking of him. I thought that was kind of classic, so that was perfect. What I'm actually going to talk today about is whether our pets go to heaven with us. I generally describe myself as a cat person with a dog, and I'm most happy with cats. It comes when it wants to. It shows that it's happy by sitting by its bowl. It doesn't come in and welcome you. It just waits for you to wait on it. Doesn't need to have a walk. Doesn't need to be let out of the house at a certain time. And doesn't, basically need to be let out when you're in a mediation in Stockton, which is running on overtime, and all you can think of instead of the mediation is, how can I get that dog out of the house? So thank God for neighbors who will come over and let your dog out of the house. But now I have a puppy, as Claudia mentioned, although she will be a year old around the 1st of June. I recently found out, to my horror, that most trainers believe that dogs are puppies until they are 3 or so. Oh. So I have a dog who also comes when she wants to, just like the cat. And she will welcome you, rub up against you, love you when you get home, regardless of what you're wearing. So we do a little dance when I come in to try to let her know that I appreciate her, but I wish she wouldn't, jump on me or rub up on me until I change clothes. So we're going to bless our animals, our pets today. And in preparing for this talk, I found that one of the biggest issues that people want to know is whether our pets are going to be in heaven with us. Now, this hadn't really occurred to me as an issue. First, because I was raised on a ranch, and in ranch land, animals in my world can be pets and are pets, but we are a little distanced, perhaps, or phlegmatic about our animals. Growing up, I had a number of kitties who would disappear in various ways, but there were also always replacements available. So it was sad, but the sorrow was kind of transient, because before you could really get too sad about it, another one would appear, or 3 or 4. So dogs seemed to last a little bit longer, but there was always a supply of those too, a number of people wanting to drop their dogs off in the country. I've never understood how you drive away from a dog that you've dropped at somebody else's house. Or commonly other ranchers whose dogs had just had puppies, and wouldn't you like 1 or 2? So there were also coyotes and bobcats, and we knew it was a dog-eat-dog world out there, so to speak. So a small diversion on that, my office group was having lunch this week, and someone admitted that they thought the phrase was dog-eat-dog, a dog-eat-dog world, and the rest of us all looked at this person there. I have to say, these are all attorneys, so we consider ourselves fairly well-educated, and while the rest of us were laughing, our intern admitted that he thought the same thing. Well, it turned out those 2 people are the youngest in our group, and we concluded that perhaps some terms or phrases just hadn't traveled very well. But come to find out, the magic of the internet, that up to the 80s, dog-eat-dog was very common, as it still is, but that somehow in the 80s it started to become doggy-dog, and it appears to be what's called an ear corn, which is a mishearing or a mispronunciation. And I have some other examples. Some of the funniest ones are, instead of a blessing in disguise, it's a blessing in the skies. Another one is, instead of gladly the cross I bear, another one is gladly the cross-eyed bear. Another one is instead of watched pot never boils, a washed pot never boils. I like this one. It takes two to tangle instead of a two to tango. Transcendental medication instead of transcendental meditation. Youth in Asia instead of euthanasia. And then, I guess maybe my favorite, stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from a bulb. We also have a new leash on life, which I thought was appropriate for today instead of a new lease on life. It will cost you a nominal leg instead of an arm and a leg. And then we have poultry in motion instead of poetry in motion. So anyway, the original phrase of dog eat dog came from a Roman proverb, which, contrarily to what you might think, was dog does not eat dog in 1543. By 1732, it was dogs are hard drove when they eat dogs, meaning they must be pretty desperate before they turn to their fellow companions for dinner. The dog eat dog world phrase showed up in 1918, meaning ruthless competition or just ruthless competition. So, as I was saying growing up, pets going to heaven was not anything we were thinking about on a ranch. And secondly, and more importantly probably, it's not an issue because I don't see myself as going to heaven. I consider myself in heaven right now, here on earth, and I assume whatever creature God created will be taken care of appropriately by that same loving spirit. And if an animal that I knew in a past life is here again with me, I'm happy. And if it's not, I'm okay with that too. So I wanted to talk a little bit about reincarnation and what Unity thinks about that. So in the Statement of Faith, number 22, which was put out in 1980, it states that we believe that the dissolution of spirit, soul, and body caused by death is annulled and by rebirth of the same spirit and soul in another body here on earth. We believe the repeated incarnations of individuals to be a merciful provision of our loving God to the end that all may have the opportunity to attain immortality through regeneration, as did Jesus. So Lewis Meyer, who wrote this piece for Unity on reincarnation, goes on to say that the soul and spirit reincarnate in the form of man, not in the form of some animal, bird, or tree. Now, this is mostly good news for me because it's occurred to me during one or more of my human acts that I might get sent back as the proverbial bug on the windshield. On the other hand, it's a pretty short life, and I might hopefully return as a human to finish working on the issues that I've been sent here to resolve. But how many times have we actually wanted to return as a dog or cat, envying them their seemingly enjoyable lives, lazing about, food provided regularly, just to love and be loved, or an eagle flying free? Reincarnation was fairly well accepted in the Christian community until the Council of Constantinople in AD 533, when a ruling was made by the church fathers against it. Even after official church rejection, reincarnation was accepted by such people as St. Augustine and St. Francis of Assisi. We learn the issues that we need to learn, and then we move on to the next life. Ultimately, we will reach perfection and eternal life. So reincarnation was part of the belief system of the Essenes, a prominent sect of Judaism in the days of Jesus. Some scholars believe that Jesus was an Essene in thought, if not in fact. Matthew recorded that Jesus referred to John the Baptist when he said, "I tell you that Elijah has already come." And again in Mark, when they asked him, "Why do the scribes say that Elijah must come?" And he said to them, Elijah comes first to restore all things. I tell you that Elijah has come, and they did to him whatever they pleased, as it is written of him. It is generally accepted that Jesus was declaring that John the Baptist was one and the same as the reincarnation of Elijah. In Matthew, Jesus asked the disciples, "Who do men say the Son of God is?" And they said, "Some say the son of John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." From this statement, it appears that the idea of reincarnation was a common one. However, there are also writers who do not support the finding or acceptance of reincarnation in the Bible, alleging that the samples I just quoted are no better than vestiges and count for nothing. My belief in reincarnation helps when I think of my brother-in-law, Eric, who died in his sleep of a heart attack recently, several weeks before his 69th birthday. He was as good a man as you would want to find. We all said that he had so much to live for. His band was performing at Carnegie Hall by invitation. He had put in his retirement papers as a professor and band director of the University of Pacific's band program. He had started up a professional band, and his daughter had just gotten married the previous fall. But maybe he was finished. Maybe instead of us saying, oh, he had so much to live for, maybe he had accomplished everything that he had come to do. Maybe he had been through all the stages and he was ready for eternal life. And that's somewhat reassuring, as is the thought that if he wasn't ready for eternal life, that he was on to another life. But a lot of people who are concerned about going to heaven and hell are also concerned about whether their pets are going with them. And since for traditional religions it's all about souls who go to heaven or not, people address the issues of whether animals, and particularly dogs for some reason, I guess they're not as concerned about their cats, whether they have souls and ultimately can go on to the afterlife. So a number of the religions do have a position on it. In 2004, it was alleged that Pope Francis told a little boy whose dog had died that paradise was open to all of God's creatures. But Pope Benedict said that when animals die, they just die. John Paul II said in 1990 that animals do have souls. But among the Catholic and other Christian denominations, whether animals are welcomed into heaven is not so clear. It turns out that both popes were wildly misrepresented, and each of them had taken great pains to insist on Catholic teaching that the human is unique in all creation, like nothing else, in both the image and the likeness of God. So the classical and medieval picture of things is of vegetable, animal, and rational souls. And the only way to guarantee human uniqueness was by separating these three into strictly impermeable compartments with an impenetrable partition between rational and animal soul. Thus, the soul seems to be something else than the body. It's something added on, and there is no intrinsic relationship between physical nature and rational nature, with animals excluded from that rational side. This may have stemmed from a need to make sure that humans were indistinguishable from animals, and this duality seems to be carried down through the ages. Currently, the current scientific paradigm does not recognize the idea of a soul. This is based on the belief that the world has an objective, observer, independent existence. Until something can be observed, there is nothingness. There is no real existence. However, theory called biocentrism, published in 2007 by Robert Lanza, appears to defy this classical intuition and suggests that part of the mind, the soul, is immortal and exists out of space and time. In the past, physics has dominated the topic of the universe in Western science. With biocentrism, Lanza switches the focus to biology rather than physics, and finding that life is not just an accidental byproduct of the laws of physics, and instead it suggests the invigorating possibility that life is fundamentally immortal. I'm going to leave this further discussion of this theory to Phil, because I've said just about all I know about that theory. Will Durant wrote that the hope of another life gives us courage to meet our own death and to bear the deaths of our loved ones. And he says we are twice armed if we fight with faith. Another writer adds that we are thrice armed if we add science to that equation. For me, it's not important what science says about the soul. It's a matter of faith. Jesus said, "You, therefore, must be perfect, as your heavenly Father is perfect." And perfectionism surely cannot be obtained in one lifetime. But there is great hope in knowing that we still have another chance, another opportunity that we can dream of. God is calling us to perfection and intends for us to enjoy perfect life. With God, all things are possible. So we started out with the question of whether pets go to heaven, and let's return to the beginning to see how our pets got here with a tale from Reverend Paul Daniel. So it is reported in the following edition of the book of Genesis was discovered in the Dead Sea Scrolls. If authentic, it would shed light on the question, where do pets come from? So Adam said, "Lord, when I was in the garden, you walked with me every day. Now I don't see you anymore. I am lonesome here, and it is difficult for me to remember how much you love me." And God said, "No problem. I will create a companion for you that will be with you forever and who will be a reflection of my love for you, so that you will know I love you even though you cannot see me. Regardless of how selfish and childish and unlovable you may be, this new companion will accept you as you are and love you as I do, in spite of yourself." And God created a new animal to be a companion for Adam, and it was a good animal. And God was pleased. And the new animal was pleased to be with Adam, and he wagged his tail. And Adam said, "But Lord, I have already named all the animals in the kingdom, and all the good names are taken, and I cannot think of a name for this animal." And God said, "No problem, because I have created this new animal to be a reflection of my love for you. His name will be a mere reflection of my own name, and you can call him Dog." And Dog lived with Adam and was a companion to him and loved him. And Adam was comforted, and God was pleased, and Dog was content and wagged his tail. After a while it came to pass that Adam's guardian angel came to the Lord and said, "Lord, Adam has become filled with pride. He struts and preens like a peacock, and he believes he is worthy of adoration. Dog has indeed taught him that he is loved, but no one has taught him humility." And the Lord said, "No problem. I will create for him a companion that will be with him forever and see who he is. The companion will remind him of his limitations so he will know that he is not worthy of adoration." And God created Cat to be a companion to Adam. And Cat would not obey Adam. And when Adam gazed into Cat's eyes, he was reminded that he was not the supreme being. And Adam learned humility, and God was pleased, and Adam was greatly improved. And Cat didn't give a damn one way or another. Thank you for having me here today.
Mm-hmm.